I did a video a couple of weeks ago about the donkeys, and then I did one a couple of days ago about the goats. So here's one about the alpacas. I'm sure I'll do one or two more about other animals. Who knows, maybe even the rats one day. Who couldn't fall in love with that bundle of fluff there? And the other one on the other side. We did. So we had both of them with their mums and a few others that we had to make up our herd a few years ago. One of the main reasons we got the alpacas was to do walking or trekking, and we had some funding for Get Suffolk Moving, which the idea was to get people off their backsides and doing something. And as you'll see as we go through this film, walking the alpacas is one of the most popular things that we do. They've been an incredibly great asset to the farm, no matter what the weather. This is in winter time, people are wearing coats and scarves, or when looks like autumn to me. Chris looks like he's got behind the others there. But of course, it's not just walking with alpacas. People go for a walk anyway. Young, old, we've had kids come along and walk them. They're very safe. Now this scene, this is courting. This is how it's done in the alpaca world. There's not a great deal of courtship goes on, really. Not a very long relationship. There you go. That's Papillon, who is the mother of Gretel, who's the little fawn one that we saw earlier. It's a sort of a family affair. Everyone getting their nose in just to see what's going on. When you think an alpaca is pregnant, you reintroduce the male. If she spits at him, then it means go away, I'm pregnant. It's called the spit test. Watch now, spit, another spit. This is the scan. So once you're fairly convinced that the alpaca is pregnant, you do a scan just to check that everything's going on all right. And this one was. And then nearly 11 months later, this little fella was born. This is Alois. We had a competition on Facebook to see what the most popular name was, and Alois won the competition. A few people voted for it. The name Alois is short for Aloysius Alzheimer, as Aloysius Alzheimer discovered Alzheimer's disease, which seems quite appropriate for us as a care farm. This little fella was born this day, so this is his first walk, just stretching his legs, not leaving mum alone. Wonderful, isn't it? It's like, say bird, Bambi. Very attentive mother. You can see it was in the summertime because they'd just been shorn, which we'll talk a little bit more about later. Alpaca's pregnancies last between 10 months and 12 months, about 10 and a half to 11 and a half months usually. And alpaca cria are usually born round about 8 o'clock in the morning till 1 o'clock in the afternoon. Amazingly good timekeepers. The reason for that is that in the wild, pumas come out at about 4 o'clock. So the alpaca babies need to be up on their feet and running around before the pumas come wild. Now, we haven't actually had many pumas near the farm yet, but you never know. So this was its first venture out into the big field with all the others. All this done very, very early on to get it established. Mum's with it, but the fawn one there that went straight over to it, that's Gretel that was in the very first picture that we first saw, our first cria that we had. I love these shots. It's like it just rules the roost. It's walking around the field, just checking it out, and every single other one is walking around after it. Back in these days, we had males and females, and the males were in the far side, keeping them separate. We don't have the females anymore. We decided to just go for males. And here we are. It's about to start suckling, which is a great thing. It's always one of those nervous times when you have a baby to make sure that it suckles properly. As I said, trekking is one of the most important things that we do. It's a great resource that we have on the farm. And this was Alois's first time out on a lead. He's not quite sure, but he's a very good walker now. And then a year or so later, we got this young fella. This is Boise. Boise's the little brown one. And as you can see, the others aren't quite so friendly towards it now. These are males, so they are different. And this is the kind of behaviour that goes on. Like with lots of species in the animal kingdom, these alpacas like to find their hierarchy, and fairly regularly they have these little spats to sort of say, I'm in charge. This never gets too aggressive. Upkeep. Now they regularly have their toenails clipped. Holding them is actually quite easy. They are very well behaved, really. I mean, it's very important that we maintain them well. And then once a year they get shorn. So here they are with very long fleece. This is probably about June. And then, as you can see, you just catch them round the neck, put one hand just on the haunches, and they really are very well behaved animals. Here's Kirsty the shearer just tying them up. This always reminds me of Aslan on the stone table. But they don't seem to mind at all. I'm sure it's a real relief to get rid of all that long hair. Look at that fleece, amazing. The fleece is in two bits. You get the legs and the neck, which are not usually that good, and then you get the main body, which is slightly more valuable. Doing around the head is obviously quite a tricky job, because you don't want to disturb the animal too much, don't want to hurt it, don't want to spook it. But Kirsty's a very, very skillful shearer. And there they are, all looking like pipe cleaners. Now, their coats are incredible. This was a few years ago during the Beast of the East, and they didn't mind at all. They just stood out in the snow. They are very, very lovely animals, and they're quite unusual. So when we have care homes come to visit, we often bring the animals over, the goats sometimes, but the alpacas are very popular. And they bring such joy and leave such lasting memories. And of course, a lot of the time what they do is they eat, they roll around, they just graze, they look good, they rub, they scratch, and they pose. They're very photogenic. And back to, oh look, there's one doing a poo. Collecting alpaca poo is actually quite a good task, and it's very good compost. But trekking is definitely one of our main activities.